Alex Phillips is a right-wing commentator on talktv, although she does claim to be centre-left, which is a bit odd seeing as the clip I'm about to show you is full of xenophobic, bigoted, rambling nonsense. Only a day before, she was getting worried about comments she may or may not have said inciting violence might be causing her to getting a little bit worried of the police knocking on her door.
Kick off proceedings, I just want to make a little disclaimer. And this is to warn anybody who might be triggered by the following content, that it could include narratives of internalised racism or xenophobia, whiteness, colonialism, heteronormative internalised bias. If you need a safe space, you can also just turn off the radio. But if any of these things you think are going to affect you negatively, then please do look after yourself in these difficult times. And I also want to pledge my allegiance to our Prime Minister, who of course was and always will be the head of the prosecution service, for he works in the best interests of our disunited kingdom of once Great Britain, and the former part of Ireland, which we used to call the United Kingdom, is now the Axis annex of the EU. Yeah, we live in strange dystopian times, and I just want to clear up if I happen to make a mistake, if I give something in sincerity that I think is a fact and it isn't. If I've read a report on the BBC that might have been from Hamas originally, a proscribed organisation, a terrorist organisation, in fact, who gives statistics, of course, to our state-run broadcaster, and happen to repeat that, please don't put me in clink for propaganda that might incite acts of terrorism or unrest, because, you know, it's really hard to know what the legal lines are anymore. That's kind of the theme for the day, really. I mean, has Sir Keir Starmer, when it comes to trying to calm down the situation and make an example of people who have committed, frankly, illegal and wanton acts of thuggery, actually kind of opened a dystopian Pandora's box when it comes to cracking down on social media? This is untested legal ground. So what does it mean?
Yet it still didn't stop her wanting to go back to living in the 1950s. She's about to tell you a story of how working class men had it really hard since 1950. And she'll tell you that they were the saviours of the United Kingdom, and how going down to working men's clubs and having a bit of a joke and a chat is now far too woke. She'll tell you that their men's jobs have been cut and it's all immigrants' fault. Here's the first part of it.
Once upon a time, we respected the backbone of our society. Our brave men went to the trenches. They mended stuff and made stuff. They joined the army. They worked in mines. They manned production lines. They drove lorries. They didn't make much money, but they made enough. And they'd be the first to turn out to carry your bag, offer a pint, defend the nation. They knew your name. They helped you with stuff around the house, and they laughed the loudest, and they made the sort of jokes that were so close to the bone, our sides split.
Now, when she puts it like that, you kind of long for the olden day times. Back when it was allowed to say what you wanted to say without fear of reprisal, free to insult and offend as many people as you possibly like, because you've had a very hard day at work. Well, she's also forgetting to mention that if she really wants to go back to living in the 1950s, having men go out to do the hard day's graft, being allowed to have a pint with their friends and racially abuse people from ethnic minorities, she would also need to remember that she would have to quit her job and go back to the kitchen, because he wants his tea on this table when he gets home. She doesn't want people to move with the times. She wants to go back to the idyllic situation where men were real men, but she fails to realise that that means that women can't have higher education. They can't have lucrative TV careers like she has. She wouldn't have a Sex Discrimination Act of 1975 or the Equalities Act of 2010. Or even the Equal Pay Act of 1970, which was a landmark in addressing the wage gap between men and women. Men were generally the breadwinners, working outside the home to provide for the family, which women were expected to manage the household, care for the children, support their husbands. Is she really wanting to go back to a time where women didn't have any rights? In fact, it was immigration that actually had a positive impact on women's roles within UK society by challenging traditional gender roles, increasing workplace participation, in promoting education and fostering activism. These contributions helped expand opportunities for women and paved the way for greater gender equality in the decades that followed. So, listen to what she's got to say, and I'd be really interested to know, do you actually agree with her based on what I've just told you?
But we gave their jobs away. We cut the army. We never replaced heavy industry. And where there were still jobs, we gave them to other men from other countries because they cost less. So instead, we gave our men benefits. We took their dignity and their ability to provide for their families and replaced it with a handout. We robbed them of all opportunity and also robbed opportunity from their kids too. Their kids who now have kids of their own. We told them they can't make their jokes anymore, not even for light relief. We told them that everything they were once loved for, and indeed that they loved, was now considered thick, racist, and out of touch. Wake up, we yelled. Get with the programme. Get woke, you Neanderthal. You've had it your way for far too long and you messed it up. It's only right that you are now punished. Your relatives enslaved us. You're a patriarchal beast. You fragile, overprivileged moron. When they now turn on the television, they don't see people like them. The songs they once sang are now cancelled. Nobody like them writes songs anymore. Well, nobody that would get a recording contract. We called them lazy after they had to make a humiliatingly necessary calculation that to provide for their family, maybe even give their loved ones a holiday from their shithole neighbourhood, it was better to not work and claim benefits instead. When they tried to tell us how much they were hurting, how they felt overlooked, using the only words that they had, we called them racist. They didn't get the latest memo from the overpaid London PR consultant about what language was acceptable and which viewpoint was allowed to be held, how to work the ever-changing system to fit in. Of course, they're slow learners, and they also don't have protected status. They're monsters. So they tried at the ballot box to change things. 3 times they voted Conservative because they promised to cut immigration. They backed Brexit because that would put them first for a change. They saw that those in charge who hadn't been listening for decades were finally made to listen. And oh, did they listen. They then did everything in their power to bully and to shame, to silence the voices of those men, to frame them as a threat, to intimidate them and censor them. And so day after day, night after night, they watched their towns change irreparably. They watched people from other countries being given houses and doctor's appointments, so surely it must be their turn next. Surely. These other people were showered with the loving glow of just being wanted. Yes, wanted. But also actively cheered for. Refugees welcome, Black Lives Matter. Who are these people? They didn't get a chance to get to know them because those people didn't learn English. They couldn't find them at the pub, but it must be their fault because they didn't welcome them enough. They didn't understand them enough. That's right, it's because they must be racist. They then saw members of those communities complain still and witnessed superhuman efforts made by people in power to listen to them. And yet, some of them still riot when they don't get their own way. Some of them commit crimes, but when they do, it's not their fault. They just need to be better understood. Those people have been through things that none of us can relate to. They're disenfranchised. They have mental health issues. And it's probably your fault, you lazy, white racist. That, dear friends, that is the story of working class England. And I hope you enjoyed it. You know, some might call it a lived experience, but for those in it, it's an experience barely worth living.
Okay, don't forget to let me know your thoughts in the comments. And on screen right now is a video that I think you should watch next. So thanks for watching. Don't forget to hit the like button, and I'll see you next time.